PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast here on a special day. We are a day late, but not $1 short. We are here to cover Andor. The finale has dropped. We are complete. We are done. Goodbye. So sad. I don't know, man. It was definitely
Sayonara.
a powerful. Sayonara. Arrivederci. Right?
Au revoir.
Exactly. All done. And we had to do it a day late because somebody else on the podcast had something pretty special to do yesterday. Matty, how are you doing? And what were you doing that you couldn't be here yesterday?
I am definitely a few dollars short after what I was up to.
That's fair. That's fair.
The drinks, they were not cheap. And this is someone who is at the moment sober, so I was only drinking soft drink. It ain't cheap. But yeah, I got to go to the premiere for Mission Impossible.
Very nice, very nice. I'm interested to hear your comments on that.
It was possibly like top 3 experiences of my life.
Damn. Well, let me ask you this off the top of your head. Trying to excise the experience from the film, because I know that's always hard to do when you do kind of big things.
Especially
like
for me, because this is my, like, as much as I do love Star Wars, Mission Impossible is my favorite movie franchise.
Right, and it's totally understandable. What's your ranking on where the film? What's your listing of where the film ranks on the scale of,
Fuck.
Too deep of a question already?
I would put it 4th
on your list. Okay.
3rd or 4th.
All right.
I've only watched it the one time. I don't want to be like a lot of these YouTube TikTokers that saw it the one time and were immediately shitting on it 5 minutes after we walked out of the fucking screening.
Right.
Like,
I did hear some mixed reactions to it. Absolutely. Some people who actually even trust had some mixed reactions to it. Some people also said they enjoyed it quite a bit. So I'm very curious as to where it's going to land on our in my lap, as it were. Especially because I didn't really love 7. I'm going to rewatch 7 again on Monday, and hopefully I might change my mind on that potentially.
You don't like 7 because they, spoiler alert, killed Rebecca Ferguson. That's why you don't like it.
Help. That definitely didn't help.
You don't like it.
No, well, let me say something. If she didn't die, then I might like it a lot more. That's absolutely true. Because part of the reason I didn't like it as much was her death. I hated her death. I didn't like how they kind of like shoved Haley Atwell as kind of like a replacement part. That's what it felt like the whole time. Haley Atwell was like the replacement part for Rebecca Ferguson.
Every woman in MI though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, but I didn't like Haley Atwell as much either way. So it just
becomes Naya. Naya becomes Julie. Julie becomes Elsa.
Hey, well, Elsa was a special case though. Elsa had a couple movies together, and they kind of.
He was his wife.
Yeah, but Julie wasn't like an action. She wasn't like an MI team member. She was the wife, but she was also like she was in 3, right? But I can deal with her absence because she wasn't she's not important to the overall scheme of the actual action of the movie. She is a MacGuffin more than anything else. She's not actively getting involved, working side by side with Ethan Hunt on the missions. She is a reason he's doing
3 is your favorite.
I do, and she's very important in that. But as far as her role goes, she's a MacGuffin.
She saves his life.
Yes, she got involved in the one mission, just like Naya got involved in one mission, just like all of them got involved. Ilsa was there for
a couple. Died after that one mission.
She did. That's what I'm saying. They were replaceable. Ilsa was there for 3 like solid movies, or 2.5.
This is my point. They are replaceable.
But they're not. She wasn't though. That's the difference. She wasn't.
She wasn't to you.
Exactly.
I've seen Rebecca Ferguson in that black dress at whatever. I think it was the Dune 2 premiere. I'm fully on board with you.
But to be fair, that wasn't the only reason. I did think it was a little bloated. I wasn't as big a fan, and again, this could change. I wasn't as big a fan of. I remember the actor's name. The villain of the movie felt a little.
Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel just felt a little too. What's the word? Didn't have a lot of depth for me. Felt a little bit like, honestly, a little like 4.
Mustache twirling.
A little mustache twirling. It was kind of like, okay, like Simon. So Sean Harris's character, Solomon Lane. I felt something a little deeper. He had something, I don't know, was his voice, whatever it was. Cavill had the arm lock, and there was something going to him.
Was it the way that he yelled
deeper.
Ethan at the end of 7, kind of
Could
like
be.
old timey bad guy? They're like, "Oh yeah,
It just seemed like I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're doing. I still know what you're doing at this point. I'm kind of like at surface level, kind of like I'm kind of like, it's okay, you're fine. But so I'm hoping 8 will help that out a little bit potentially for me as well. 8 could absolutely retroactively make 7 a better movie. So I don't know what to say how it goes for me.
Here's my one piece of advice. Go in thinking this is a Mission Impossible movie. This is a Mission Impossible movie. This isn't Gone with the Wind.
Oh,
and this is to everyone. This isn't just you.
Okay.
This isn't Gone with the Wind. This isn't Casablanca. This isn't Schindler's List. This is not going to be some award stunt, maybe. This isn't going to be some like award-winning, super amazingly critically acclaimed movie. As much as the king of the president of Hollywood, the president of movies himself, TC Legend, would probably want it to be.
Right.
You ain't getting, other than stunts, you probably ain't getting any Oscars for this one, big guy.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
I know that.
Hey kid, it's not that kind of movie.
And I know that. I absolutely know that. And I agree with you 100%. You got to go in the right mindset. But I'm looking forward to it. I really am, because it is probably still, even with my disparaging of 7, I still overall like the movie. I still enjoy the movie. I think it was just more like, it's kind of like, honestly, bringing it up to Andor, it's kind of like how you put Arc 2 or Arc 2 or Arc 4 up against Arc 3. It's like, they're great. They're just not quite Arc 3. And like Mission Impossible, like for me, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were just like this almost untouchable like level of like, holy shit. And when 7 didn't quite hit that level for me, it's kind of like, oh, it's a little disappointing, but it's still fucking great.
And then you go back and you watch 2, like you were going back and watch Rogue One. You're like, holy shit, this is the best movie ever made.
I rewatched Mission Impossible 2, and you know what? You're wrong. It's still pretty much the worst film of the franchise. I still have fun.
More than one.
I like 1 better overall. I think 2 is a lot of fun.
I got to shout out our friend Taylor Robinson. Me and her were talking about this earlier. She agrees with me that 2 is better than 1.
I get it. I understand why why that's the case.
I think I persuaded her into saying that because I think like I talked her around. But
that's pretty close. It's pretty close. I get that. I mean, I get that. Honestly speaking, like to me, it's Mission Impossible starts with 3 for me. That's how it's always been. I still enjoy 1 and 2. I have lots of fun with them, and I can't wait. I'm sure they'll be recontextualized a little bit.
How dare you?
3 is the best.
How dare you?
It's like you put 2 up against 3, and 3 is like the best of them. And you're putting 2 worse up against the best of them. Like they're butting up against. Like, I mean, how can you?
So Luther doesn't exist in Mission Impossible 1. Doesn't exist in Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, he does.
Comes in at 3.
He does, but the movies themselves, I mean, it's fine. They're fine.
Well, come on, wait. I got.
This is not declassified. Not declassified.
This is not my declassify. Although we probably do need to talk about when we're going to do that. But people here, this is banter, folks. This is a podcast. Me and PLD are friends. Believe it or not, you can be friends with your podcast co-host outside of the podcast, and you can have conversations that are not related to the thing that you make content for.
Right. And we do all the time.
Which we do all the time. But I am never saying who asked for this. Did we need this? Ever.
That's a fair
I hate people that do it anyway, but I gotta admit, when Andor first came out, I was a little bit like, what is this gonna do for us?
Yeah.
I wasn't like, do we need this? Who asked for this? It was more of a, what's this gonna do?
I was the same way. I mean, I'm always excited. I love Star Wars enough that you could tell me anything. And I'm like, oh, new Star Wars, awesome, I'm there. But when this was announced, I was kind of like, oh, okay, sure. Guy from Rogue One was
like Bad Batch. We were like, huh?
Okay. There's stories I want to see more. I guess the more it's not about who need this or who asked for this. It's sometimes it's like for me, it's usually like, well, yeah, but I'd like to see something different. There's stories I want to see explored that aren't getting explored because you're making this show instead. So it doesn't get like I don't get resentful of it, but it's kind of like, okay, well, let's see what you got. And then you give us something like Andor, and it's like, oh, that's what you got. That's what you got. That's what can happen with something.
I'm sorry, Tony Gilroy. I was not familiar with your game.
Which we should have been. That's the thing. We really should have been familiar.
No, we should have been.
Clayton Bourne. I mean, did he just work on Rogue One, whatever that work technically was? We know his game. We know he did well with that stuff. So we should have expected great things from him. And I would never doubt him again for sure. In fact, as much as I fully endorse and support his getting out now and doing his own thing and doing other things, which I want to say, I would love to see him come back one day at some point to do something else down the line. Get a few other projects in first, but like come back and do something else. Absolutely.
This is going to be a theme, and this is something that's going to come back later. I don't want him to come back.
Really?
I feel like, salute, you paid your debt to society. You paid for
So you're telling me
you've served your time.
You're telling me 10 years goes by and Tony Gilroy project is announced in Star Wars. You're like not looking forward to it?
I'm gonna be looking forward to it. I'm just saying, like, I would rather him go on and like he's left his mark. Go on to do other things. Because if he does come back, everyone is just gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be Tony Gilroy. Like if he did like a George and just like did creative consultancy on something, 2 thumbs up. But I'm like, man, let me put it in baseball terms. Like, you don't want to overcook it, right? If you bat 1,000, don't risk it.
It's like Jordan coming back after he retired. Is that what you're saying?
Didn't Jordan win more championship rings after he came back?
You know what? I'm not a basketball guy. I think there's a second comeback.
That's why I went with baseball. I thought
when he was playing with the Wizards. When he was playing for the Wizards at one point, maybe the second comeback, maybe.
Maybe
I think he retired and came back, and they won more championships. I think he retired with the baseball and then came back a third time. And
because that's the whole plot of Space Jam.
Yeah, right. Okay,
that's why I went with baseball. I thought you would have gotten that more. But like, you batted 1,000. Like, don't risk it. Just like go sit down, hit the bench. Like, thank you for your service. Your services are no longer required.
I get that, and there's obviously when you have perfection, there's always that worry that like you're never going to be able to hit the heights that you did before. I get that. But to me, it's all about what he wants to do. If he does his thing, he goes, directs a movie, writes something else to create a TV show, and all of a sudden 10 years later, he's like, you know what, Kathleen Kennedy, I would love to do a Son of Andor setting place during the resistance. Whatever he wants to do. If he has an idea that he wants to pitch, and he wants to do that Star Wars law room thing that he talked about. He mentioned like a law there. Like, could you do it? If he wants to do that, I'm like, you have earned enough for me to let you do that, because it's not going to make Andor any less, as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead, shoot your shot.
He comes back and wants to do like a Star Wars courtroom drama.
That was a courtroom drama. I couldn't think of the words.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Just give us like the Star Wars version of the Judge.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be for that.
With RDJ.
There are a couple of things that we're going to talk about later on, actually, that I'll mention probably more during one of our segments. Is that there's stuff that he's talked about in some interviews that did make it to Andor that I would love to see him perhaps explore one day. And maybe, I don't know how he would do it necessarily. But yeah, I totally get him leaving, and I understand what I support him. He did make his mark, and what a mark it was. It's funny, I'm watching all these people. I'm watching a lot of content creators, some who are less enamored with Star Wars recently, like non-Star Wars podcasts, for example, who like not necessarily shitting on it, but like for whatever reason, they're just a little less enamored, who were really brought back because of the quality of Andor. And like for example, I work with the Real Rejects. Real Rejects cover all Star Wars things. I know Greg, I could tell about Greg watching. He never shits on it, but he's always kind of like, it's good. But he didn't have the same excitement that he used to have for it.
That's fair.
And that's fair. But he even said like he did the Andor rewatch or Andor watch reaction, and they decided like on the spot they were going to go right on and do Rogue One. And he had a podcast to drop today. He was talking about how much like what Star Wars did for what Andor did for him and reinvigorated some real love for Star Wars. And he wants to watch more Star Wars content now and everything else. That's what something like that can do when it's that kind of prestige format. And I really think that that's what's impressive to me. Coy Jandreau on that same podcast was saying he hasn't been enamored with a lot of Star Wars choices recently as well, but Andor really struck a big note for him as far as it was like a rebellion against corporations, like art versus corporate power. This is more art. Like Andor didn't make a bunch of money. Andor probably isn't financially like hugely successful financially, but it was a artistically successful, and it could, even if like the bean counter, as he said, to paraphrase what he said, he's like the bean counters aren't affected or they don't care about this kind of thing. It's the artists watching, like who 10 years later are going to inspire to make their own Star Wars piece because they saw like what art can do. It's impressive what this series did as a whole, and I'm not going to use it. I'll throw it out there. I'm not going to use it ever to decry any other Star Wars product. I hate that.
We know you're not.
I hate when people say that shit. That's some of my least favorite parts of social media nowadays. Oh, watching this, like all their stuff is slop. It's like, fuck you. Like,
yeah.
I love all of Star Wars. And I'm not saying, like, you can tell me a show if you want to. I enjoy all of Star Wars. I know that this was prestige and more like a different style of Star Wars than we're used to. But I think they both have their great place. And that's what makes Star Wars great to me. That we can, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'll sound like it's on a broken record. We could have something like Young Jedi Adventures. We could have something like Bad Batch. We could have something like Skeleton Crew. And then we can go to have something like Andor. It's all in the same galaxy. And we can enjoy all of it. You don't have in times of it. So just enjoy what you enjoy. If you don't like something, it's fine. But don't use something as a weapon. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So.
Well, this goes back to what I was saying last week, the conversation I had with my friend Ryan. It's like, and I could like, I'm guessing me, Greg, Coy, we're all around the same age. We're all around a similar age.
Right.
We grew up with Star Wars. These are generational stories. And this is why I said, like, we're getting the same feeling now as adults that we did when we saw Star Wars for the first time as kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is that version of that storytelling for us. We are now of an age where we understand the themes at a deeper level. We understand fascism. We don't understand fascism, but we know what fascism is. Mm-hmm. We understand corporations and how entertainment industries and industries in general work, how government works. Like, we've grown up with these stories, but now we've got one that's going into these themes deeper for our age group. So it is almost like, yeah, I can completely understand when people say, yeah, I wasn't so much into Ahsoka, or I wasn't so much into Skeleton. I mean, I don't understand you. Like, what the hell have you been watching? You're crazy if you watch Skeleton Crew and it didn't do anything for you.
Right.
But sometimes people don't want nostalgia in the form of the warm and fuzzies that we got as kids. We don't, some people don't want the member berries. Some people just want that feeling of like, yes, I am, like, I feel something from this. Like, I can put myself in this. And I think that's a strength of Andor, is it's not mystical. It's not about the Skywalker family. It's not about the Jedi. Yes, they have some little bit of a presence, like lingering over them, but ultimately this show is about the little people. I mean, let's take Cassian for an example. Cassian was a tiny cog in the wheel to get Luke to make that shot that destroyed the Death Star. Like, all these little, in the grand scheme of the Force and everything that happened, people like Cassian, and then you go even lower to like people like Brasso. As much as I hated Tim, Bix, Marva, like, they all build up to this grand event that happens of the overthrow of the Empire.
Right.
And I think there's something in that, because if you look at the world we're in, you and I are that. Everyone who's watching this, we are that in the grand scheme of life. And I think some people just want to want their art to reflect that, and like to be able to be like, yeah, okay, I get what's going on here. Like you're
Right.
not dumbing it down, but like you're making it more relatable, I guess.
I
Some
get
people
that. Yeah.
just want that, and I completely understand that.
Yeah, and I can also understand like the accusations made towards like the Filoni led stuff, because Filoni is very strong on using member berries. Let's be honest. Like I'm not going to deny that he uses the nostalgia a lot, and some people don't like that, and I get that. I personally love it. I love nostalgia stuff, and as long as it's done well, I think there's a chance. I think there's times where it's done well. There's times where it doesn't well. I mean, I'm famous for on this podcast talking about Rogue One. I hated the member berry of Ponda Baba and Doctor Evazan and Doctor Evazim. Ever on Jedi. I hated that member bar. I thought it was so like just forced in. It just felt bad. Most of the time, though, I like when they're added. And I think it's a nice little connection, especially because I love the connectivity. And I will say Andor successfully avoided using any member berries, because anybody who made an appearance in there who was a character felt like they were just a part of the story. Like legitimately, there was no like pop-ups of anybody in there. It's funny. I could be hypocritical, because I'll tell you I don't mind the 3PO and R2 one that's in Rogue One, which is actually similarly feeling like in terms of it just popped up and obviously was just kind of shoved in there for nostalgia purposes. But they did make sense to be on Yavin at the time,
and they've also got to connect to got to connect to A New Hope somehow,
right? And that makes sense that way. So I understand that too. And that's why it works for me. Like whereas like everyone's kind of like, well, so they're in Jeddah, and then like 2 hours later they're in Tatooine, and like it felt like a weird whatever. I'm gonna go
hyperspace. They can move that quick.
I get it, but I don't like it. I didn't like it. Whatever. Either way, but I get the Andor did not do that at all successfully. There's a couple times they could have done that. There's times that they even tossed some ideas around eventually, but I'm glad they kind of stuck to their guns and they kind of let Andor create their own member berries, because all of a sudden now these characters in the future, if some of them ever appear anywhere else, it will be like we'll doing like, oh, nice. I'd like to see what happened to Vel. Is there all of a sudden there's a comic book or book that takes place somewhere during the rebellion and Vel makes an appearance, or they decided to Ahmad Mothma.
We got live action Wolf Yularen.
Yeah, absolutely cool. That's true. That's technically member berry, but that again makes sense because he had the ISB at that point. And let's be honest, Wolf originally made that his first appearance in A New Hope, even though we didn't really know what his name was back in the day. At that time, he's into the Death Star. One of my new favorite memes, by the way, is the idea they show the Death Star table room sequence from episode 4, and there's the empty chair, and we're like, that's Krennic's chair. Like, I love that. But either way, we have a lot to discuss about this arc overall. I will say off the top of my head, arc 3 is my favorite arc. This was a damn close. I thought this was a very strong ending. It definitely nailed the ending as well as it could on many different levels. And in ways I kind of thought were unexpected to a degree in how they did it. Was it perfect? No, but it was pretty damn close. Pretty damn close overall. So we should just get kind of right into it. I mean, we'll catch up with anything we miss. We do things, if you haven't been here before, we usually go through the show reviews with segments that let us hit on the high points, low points as we go through, and then we kind of catch up at the end. Then we usually go into news. I'm gonna right now I did not prepare any news this week. It was a tough week, and we thought this might be a long show. I might have had a hard out, which I don't have anymore. But either way, I figured we'll just do news next week when we have nothing on the docket to watch that's new. We are watching Rogue One again. We're going to do a rewatch of Rogue One with the Andor season 2 recontextualization of it, and we'll talk about that. But it seems like a better time to do news then. And quite frankly, it's not exactly a lot of breaking news recently. It's all kind of a slow news time. We had a couple of
we're not going to have much for a while.
Yeah, and absolutely, it makes sense. So I don't mind skipping it this week. So let's get right into our segments as we go through them. First segment we always have is one we're doing adjacent for Andor. We usually do Hondo Watch 2025, where we want to know if Hondo Ohnaka made his return to the Star Wars stage on screen in any way, shape, or form.
We technically did this week. The DLC for Star Wars Outlaws dropped. I haven't played it. I probably won't be playing it for a very long time. But Hondo Watch does technically end this week.
True. You're right. I mean, as not part of Andor, but as a part of the Star Wars galaxy as a whole. That's true.
Yes, to go on to your point, this show does not involve Hondo Watch.
True. That's right. We decided before the season began that we knew that Hondo was going to make an appearance because, quite frankly, the tone of Hondo's character didn't quite jive with the tone of what they're going for Andor. Although he was going to appear anywhere, but would have been this arc, and him and K2SO could have had something potentially that would have fit. But he does not appear. We decided to adopt a different watch. We decided to adopt Mosk Watch. Lieutenant Linus Mosk, or Sergeant Linus Mosk from season 1, who was one of my favorite Glove Shadows, and I loved seeing him. I was kind of hoping we'd get a check-in on where he was by the end of the show. I didn't really expect him to appear, and especially after the death of Cyril last week, I really didn't expect him to appear.
I thought that's when we would get him, like some kind of memorial, like the funeral scene for Cyril, and it's literally just Mosk and Edie Khan. Not even Edie. It's just Mosk at the grave. Like Edie doesn't even visit her own son's grave.
Right. I can see that. I can totally see that.
She's so disappointed that he died.
I also will say he did kind of appear in spirit in a way, because there was a lot of like echoes to the first season. We had the raid on the safe house, which kind of definitely harkened back to that very first arc where Cyril and Mosk had led the raid on Ferrix, trying to nail Axis. And I almost felt like we're going to see Mosk as a stormtrooper, or like in one of those stormtroopers.
Oh my God.
Is that going to be Mosk there?
Mosk is a Comp Force trooper.
Right. I was like, well, is that what happened? So the spirit of Mosk was alive, I think, in that way. But no, we did not get Mosk Watch 2025. I think that'll probably be the final Mosk Watch, unless Gilroy does come back. So I don't see Mosk appearing anywhere else. Although, stranger things have happened for sure.
He could show up in what's it? Fucking Mandalorian and Grogu.
It theoretically could. I don't think it's going to happen though.
Show up as a pilot.
All right, let's move on to our.
Got like how Maverick has the photo of Goose.
Who has the photo? Who
does the Polaroid of him and Cyril?
Talk to me, Cyril. Talk to me. All right, let's get on to our regularly scheduled segments. First one we talk about is our character of the week.
Amazing Cyril and Dedra's kid.
Favorite character of the week. We have done these again. We usually do this episode by episode, but with Andor, we made an exception because it dropped 3 episodes at a time. In arc format, we decided to cover all 3 arcs. We might expand on the segments a little bit because there is, obviously a lot more to talk about, generally speaking wise. I'm going to drop my favorite character of the week, and this is of all 3 episodes, really. I want to give this character a big shout out. Really came into their own. That's Clea. Clea was easily my character of the arc.
Let's just go for it, because Clea was mine too.
I mean, this makes sense. Obviously speaking, like this is the actress's first role. Like she graduated, got out of school, Elizabeth Tullo, and this is what she graduated to. And what a debut for her! And this arc really was about Clea in so many ways. We had obviously the almost bottle-like episode. That was the first one, which is basically it was Luthen and Clea all the way through. We got to see a little bit of young Clea and a younger Luthen and younger Clea, and how they developed, all as a part of this story where Clea has to make a decision. Obviously, spoiler. Obviously, we're going to spoil everything. If that's not clear, we're spoiling everything.
This is a review show, so we will be spoiling things.
So after the great sequence with Luthen and Lonnie, which I'm sure we're going to touch on in a little bit, Luthen is captured almost, despite him trying to kill himself. And he goes into the hospital, and Clea's got to figure out what to do and how to get the information, the big information about the Death Star that Lonnie discovered, how to get that back to Yavin, and also what to do about Luthen. And it is all about what she does on her own, really. And she really comes into her own. I really think this episode specifically showcases that it almost wasn't Luthen in charge the entire time. It was almost Clea was in charge the entire time. Luthen was just he saw the fire in her, and
he's the instigator.
And he kind of just said, okay, this is what you want to do. I will help you. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to guide you into doing what you want to do. I don't know if Luthen ever starts the rebellion without her. I feel like he would have like left and maybe done his own thing, but like I don't know if he
tries. I think he tries, but I don't think he's successful.
I think he might have I think it was her fire and her desire for vengeance that really kind of like sparked something in him to go, okay, I will help you out. Like the whole opening sequence with him and her, not opening sequence, the whole first flashback sequence where he's on the ship with the mud troopers, and he's like, he was a sergeant in there, And we discovered that Clea is like, you know, one of the, obviously she lived on that planet and she was hiding out on the ship. He was like not happy with the Empire, but I feel like he was like more of the, I'm just going to leave the Empire, this isn't for me kind of thing. And then discovering her and her wanting her vengeance, like that's when he's like, okay, I'm going to help you become who you want to be as long as you're sure that's what you want to do. So I don't know if he has. I think that's what made him go, okay, we'll do this whole rebellion thing.
I did think it was, to add a little point, I did think it was pretty nudge, nudge, wink, wink that his real name is Lear.
Yeah.
Because of the story of King Lear, of him dividing the kingdom up between his three children. His three children in this case being Claire, Cassian, and Vel.
Yep. Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed in that. But Clay does, that whole movie is about her and her upbringing, and as she goes on to make these great decisions. What a performance throughout the entire arc. Even like as we get further into the arc and becoming less about, like a little bit less about her, but she's always, every time she was on screen, she made this great like just impact. It showed she at the end of the arcs, the 3 arcs, we get to see her finally giving a little smirk of hope as she got to watch the sunrise that Luther never got to see. And it was just a very powerful performance throughout. She, if you told me at the beginning that our last 3 episodes would have honestly concentrated so much on Clay, I would be like, there's no way. But Gilroy made it work, and made it work so well that she became kind of like the heart of the rebellion. And I've said that about a couple different characters. So we're like Doctor Who, we have more than one heart, but she is definitely a beating heart of the rebellion.
It's what Tony Gilroy has said in multiple interviews now. It's like this season in particular is about the 5 women of Andor. And one of the big criticisms about Tony Gilroy is that he can't write strong women. Boy, did he fucking prove everybody wrong.
Agreed on that.
That's something that I've heard like bandied about Tony Gilroy, is like he can't write strong female characters. I'm just like, excuse me? On Mothma, Bix, Vel, Cinta, Claire.
They're all pretty solid.
Even Dedra to a degree. Yes, she's a scumbag, but
she's a great character though. And a strong character. I gotta be honest with you. I know you want to agree because I know how you are. And that's okay. But I actually even felt a little, I don't know, the beginnings of sympathy for her at the end. Not sympathy is the wrong word, but like empathy. I felt a little bad for her. Empathy. Yeah, kind of like
pity.
Yeah.
Pity.
Pity's probably the best word. I mean, she definitely deserved what she got. But like at the end you watch her like, wow, damn. Because you know that she also, I mean, she made the choices that got her there. Absolutely. But she also had her own struggles, and it was definitely some dark moments in there. And God, it is deserved. I'm actually glad that she didn't die. I was actually very glad she didn't die. I thought that was actually
worse than death.
I agreed. I thought it was a well-deserved fate, but it did give you a little bit of empathy in these characters. That's what Gilroy does best, I think. Even like the most evilest character, the great characters have that you're not all great, and there's some shine to have to rub off you. So like Bale didn't come off like awesome during all this entire time.
No,
but that was good. But he also didn't ruin him. It just gave him a little bit more depth. And I think the quote unquote evil characters had their moments of shine, except for like the only like mustache twirling villain of sorts that didn't have any kind of like real depth in terms of like character development probably was Krennic. He was the ultimate baddie this time. I love Krennic in this arc.
You think so?
I didn't think he had a lot. I didn't think. Well, he was definitely, but he was like, well, I don't see much depth in him. He is I am a bad guy. I am evil. I am doing evil things.
I am evil.
There's no really introspective moments for him. I mean, because he was the big baddie. Like that would happen a lot of times. Like in overall, in like the Star Wars original trilogy, the big baddie is Palpatine at the end of 6. You don't see a lot of empathy for him. Tarkin, episode 4, you don't see a lot of empathy for him overall. And if they were in this show, they would be the big baddie, the mustache twirling. Maybe that would allow Krennic to get a little bit more of get to go deep into Krennic. Krennic doesn't appear enough to be more empathetic. He's the moment who comes in here, has awesome moments. In fact, I think this show has done more for Krennic than almost anybody else outside of Cassian in Rogue One, honestly. I think that back on Mothma too. Talking about established character, as far as pre-established characters go, I think that Krennic got a lot out of Andor. Like in terms of he actually felt a lot more menacing and a lot more evil than even in Rogue One. Rogue One, he kind of comes across sometimes, and I'm interested to see how this rewatch goes. He's a little more simpering, a little more, I don't know, bumbling is the right word in Rogue One, but he's not like quite as like intimidating. Like he is intimidating as hell in this season 2. But so I'd actually put him as another secondary, my favorite character of the arc as well. His interrogation of Dedra alone put him on top of the charts for me, and then his also later conversations with Partagaz and with Hirt, great moments, great powerful. Like mustache twirling isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if they're shown to be strong enough, and he is certainly strong enough to be intimidating enough in there. So I do appreciate him for that. What about you? Anything more to say about Claire? Or do you have any other characters you want to highlight?
I mean, I'll just go into what I was going to say about Krennic. The moment where he looks at Partagaz and says, "I can't protect you, Leo."
It's a good point. It's a good point.
Like it. I don't want to say it humanizes him because at the end of the day, he is still a space Nazi piece of shit. But it's like those two came up together. Like they were probably at the Imperial Academy at the same time, probably got promoted around the same time, coming up, did missions together, helped each other climb the ladder. And it was just a moment of like a flicker of a second, just this brief humanity of looking at this man that he respects.
Right.
And when he's even in the room with what was it? Hirt?
Yeah. Hirt.
That's it.
H-E-R-T.
I can never get it right. But when they're in the room together and they're just like Hirt's trying to come up with how to put out the bulletin on Claire.
Right.
And Partagaz just like looks across at Krennic and he's just like, she's sick. She has a disease. Right. Which is again loops back round to when Partagaz in season 1 said rebellion is like a disease.
Right. 100%.
But then Krennic just walks past him and he just goes, "There it is. Why are you still here?"
Mm-hmm.
And you see like that smirk on Partagaz's face. It's like, oh, they're buddies.
Right.
Like,
yeah, they definitely
talk about like being friends with your podcast host outside of the podcast. Like outside of the office, they're probably fairly buddy.
Yeah, at least they have to have some connection. They have some history together for sure. And I should point that out. I did when I said mustache twirling, I didn't remember that scene. That sequence does actually lend credence to that and does give him a little bit more depth. Especially because I love Partagaz. I've always loved Partagaz throughout his first appearance. So good point. Very, very solid point. I retract my statement about that. Even kind of got a little bit of depth. I'll give him
that's why I was like, oh, really? Because like when he did that, I was like, oh,
yeah.
You two are your friends. You're not just
moment. Yeah.
You're not just colleagues. And
I did like that. That's true.
As friends as you can be when you're in an empire, when you're a couple of fascists. But
yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Anybody else that we want to highlight? Obviously, Melshi had some great moments, some fun moments. Good to see him back. I'd say K2SL has also got to throw it up there. Like he
100%.
I will say,
but I'm saving him for another category.
As much as I love him, and I do love him, I completely understand why they held him back into the last arc and held the last 2 episodes really, because he really almost single-handedly changed the tone, and he almost upsets the tone in a way, like in terms of like he just adds so much of that buddy humor to it, which is great. Comic relief. We don't really have that in Andor season 1 or 2 through 8, really. And like B2 Emo does that a little bit in season 1 when he's there in a kind of sad, pathetic way. Like it's kind of like, I don't mean he's pathetic, but his, it's very like kid whiny kind of kind of way. That's what I mean by that. Whereas K2SO all of a sudden makes it like almost like a buddy comedy routine in a way, and it's like it almost upsets the balance of what Andor wants to do, It doesn't quite. They're
Almost
good.
becomes like the nice guys a little bit.
Right. There's a moment
Like
you're kind of
they get on each other's nerves, but like you can tell they.
right. There's almost too much laughing now. It's almost kind of like it gets me out because Andor is so good at like that oppressive feeling, that like claustrophobic feeling the entire time. You're like, you should. I feel that with the characters. I'm like, I feel like trodden down upon. I feel almost like there's no hope. I feel like, oh my god, and that's the success that Andor has done. Introducing K2SO kind of gave you that like release valve in a way, so it almost works against the show. Almost, luckily, it doesn't quite. I didn't quite get there. It still it doesn't. I guess it doesn't quite upset the apple cart completely. But again, I do agree. See, I didn't understand why. I was like, why are you holding him back for a whole season? And then like we're watching the season, like we're not getting him to the very end. He's like one of the most favorite characters a lot of people want to see. Cassian and K2 together. That's what they want to see. Hell, I think the initial pitch of the show was a Cassian and K2SO show before Tony Gilroy got involved. They wanted to have like basically have a Cassian, like they want to have the nice guys as a series with Cassian and K2. And I'd love that. I'd love to say I'd be here for that.
That would have been awesome.
I mean, hell, if Diego Luna ever does want to come back, I'd love to see something that took place between these seasons where K2SO and he just go on some missions together, kind of thing.
From what I can tell, that is his and Alan Tudyk's relationship, because they spend every holiday with each other. They are they have become good buddies. Best friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think now that I see that and I watched these last episodes, I understand why they held him back. I think it makes sense. I think it was probably for the betterment of the show, honestly.
I mean, he technically was in the arc before.
Yes, he was.
But he wasn't K2.
Right. He's only K2 for like 30 seconds at the end, and that's not enough to even come close to upsetting what happened to him before. But again, I do love him so much. I would actually still consider him a crew member, like a character of the week potentially, because he did give you that kind of fun, and you do need a little bit of hope at the end. And this show has done a great job of like leading into a little bit of hope at the end. I one particular bit about that I kind of an interview. I don't know where else to place this in our discussion, so I'll throw it in here now. I read an interview with the composer Brandon Roberts, I think it is. Brandon Roberts. Talk about how they consciously made a decision, how like they went from this like electronica kind of score, this very like kind of like.
Oh, that was on Declassified.
Oh, is that in Declassified? Okay, I watched so many things I kind of forget where they came from.
Because they wanted it to go into Rogue One, so they made it more orchestral.
So by the end, they had this orchestral sweeping music, and I'm going to throw it out there now. One of my favorite bits of the entire series is hopefully if you're watching this, you stayed through the entire credits. Like there's no end, no post-credit scene and no ending scene. But man, did hearing that Star Wars theme hit me so emotionally, and I like in a way that's never really hit me before, because it's not like
surprise to be sure.
It was a great surprise, and it's not like an emotional piece, generally speaking, but like I listened to it again. I listened to it a couple of times. I realized what it was. I listened to, I think Ken Napzok said at one point, and other people have said it too. I think Joseph Scrimshaw actually said it as well. And I'm like halfway through the Force Center review. They mentioned how like that was like not just thrown in there as like an Easter egg. That was thrown in there as like this is what this is all led to. Like Luthen's entire thing that we began with Luthen in this like beginning of the rebellion and everybody else, and the heartbreak and the tragedy, and we are ending on hope, and everything that we are watching, this heartbreak, this claustrophobia, this oppression, leads to the Battle of Yavin, the destruction of the Death Star, and that great triumphant theme of music playing. And for a show that has been the most unique Star Wars show, the least of the Star Wars like adventure fun type shows, it was great to tie that in together so seamlessly, and it gave us that like I teared up at it. I was like, and I'm like, why am I tearing up? This is not like a tear up type theme usually, but it hit me so right, and so I love that. So I'll say that the score, arc of the week, is character of the week if I had to go there. So
the only reason I didn't give it to K2 is because he's going to get an entire category to himself coming up.
I think I know what category that is, and I don't deny it. So,
yeah.
Right. Let's move on to our next category then. Next category is favorite lines of dialogue of the weeks, of the arcs, as we're sure. I have a bunch of different lines I want to talk about here and there. Some funnier and some not. That's the thing. Sometimes our comic moments are also have crossover because their lines of dialogue said. But I had enough that were in there that we should talk about. Do you want to go first? So I went first with character.
Yeah, I got two. I picked out a serious one and a funny one. We'll start with the serious one because I think my funny one's going to bleed into comic moments, so we can just go with that. Krennic, when he grabs hold of Dedra and he says, "We will do our best to carry on without you." I got chills. I got goosebumps because like he's not even looking her in the eye, and adding to the fact that she's in the room that she interrogated Cyril in, like the very same room.
Yep.
It's like that full circle moment of her coming back to, like, and looking out through the window, just seeing a bunch of men, and she's on the outside looking in again, like she was before, and it's just like, you men. Like Cyril, who she was manipulating the entire time, you meant nothing to them.
You're fucked also.
Yeah, and you are fucked. But also, it's just like when he's talking about how she went after Luthen on her own, it's almost like how dare you think that you're above your station?
Right.
Like, you are where you are. Know your place.
Right.
Don't ever try to go over our heads because this is what happens when you do.
100%. Absolutely.
And the way he just like grabbed her, it's fucking disturbing because he's just like, and he just like sits her back down and he's just like, we will do our best. Bro,
the point on the head was so freaking great.
That wasn't in the script.
I know.
He came up with that on the spot.
It's all Ben Mendelsohn. It's so memorable. And it's it's a small thing, but it's
so weird. He's just like, and then he just walks around her. I'm like, that's creepy. Please stop doing that.
That's such a great moment.
And then he snaps at her, but then he just like brings himself back down and he's just like, we'll do our best to get on without you, and just walks out the door. And I was just like, that was fucking cold.
Oh, so good. Bunch of different lines I had. I'll throw out there. If you want to save the other one for later, you said.
Yeah, because it just goes right in a comedy. So
all right, let's go into one of my favorite bits of the entire arc was the beginning of episode 10, the confrontation between Dedra and Luthen. And it was kind of like Heat. Kind of reminded me of Heat, getting the two like
Heat, Inglorious. It also kind of reminded me of the Inglorious Bastards moment in the bar.
Yeah. They're kind of like
the three.
And they're both kind of playing with each other. They know both of them know what's going on, but they're both like kind of creeping there. And there's like 3 pieces of dialogue that said that made me excited. 3. First one, Luthen goes, only 2 pieces of questionable providence in the gallery today. So great.
And he's talking about him and Dedra.
All they talking about him and Dedra, nothing to do with the pieces of work itself.
I saw some people who say they took that as him and Claire, but I thought that was like.
No, it's definitive. I'm sorry if you've been. I don't mean to talk down anybody, but I definitely think you're that's a wrong. You have your own choices. That's fine, but to me, it looks to me like it's.
Hey, that's just like your opinion, man. But
right, and it's about her not being honest with him so far. Like, because she's coming off like, I'm here.
I'm not being honest with herself.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Absolutely. It's like we're basically dancing around this king thing right now. A little later on, almost a comic moment for me because the delivery. I love that. And he turns to her and goes, "We still don't know. The tension mounts." like that's playing. I'm like, that's awesome. I can't.
It's like they're both they're almost like 2 sides of the same coin. They're both like trying to be like overly theatrical. The way she does it by pulling the Star Path unit out of the briefcase, and he's just there, just like putting all these artifacts, and he's just like, we still don't know. Like, I keep saying it. Like, he reminds me of Mrs. Doubtfire.
That's what was like that.
Like sure. Very like over the top and like over embellished. Like, oh, hello, dear.
Nice. And then of course, probably the most quoted line of dialogue I've seen this week is the final end. The rebellion isn't here anymore. It's flown away. It's everywhere now. There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to discuss you.
Yeah.
was so good.
That line was hard. That was a great line.
That's so good. Most of my lines of dialogue were from that first episode. I'm not gonna lie. Like, not that the other episodes had bad dialogue or didn't have memorable dialogue, but those are the ones that hit me the hardest.
I feel like 11 was more of an action episode.
I agree with that.
And then 12 was building into Rogue.
Yeah, 12. The funny thing about 12 was like a lot of that was like if the series hadn't been so good, the ending of 12 could have been seen as like I was like, what's the point here? Because it really was like kind of like all right, here's where everybody ended up. Kind of like it almost felt like more performative than like actually narratively important in a way. But because the episodes were so good and the characterizations were so good that it did feel earned and it felt like a thing like this is cool to see and like I like to see where this is going. But you're right, line of dialogue wise, I agree. I'll throw out there two more I had from the actual flashback moments with Luthen and the young Claire. Luthen had a great line of all you know now is how much you hate. You bank that. You hide that. You keep it alive until you know what to do with it. He's actually a great Sith Lord. To be really honest, Luthen would have been a great Sith Lord in a way.
He would have. I really like that they went to Naboo as well.
I love that was Naboo. I love they didn't actually have to like officially say anything in the show itself later on.
Yeah, no, we knew what that was.
We knew what it was, and that's so great that the first. Well, it felt like that was the first strike of the rebellion. Like it felt like that was the first explosion.
In Palpatine's
backyard, right? The first shot right in Palpatine's backyard. I love that. Love the meaning of that. Even if, I think that's great. Also, I love the fact, like I said, I hearken to him being a Sith Lord, though. Luthen, the whole episode, the whole show has been Luthen and Clea talking about like we are fighting for a sunrise we're never going to see, but we're fighting for people to have freedom. We're fighting for people to have, like Clea had that line, making your own choice. Isn't that what we're fighting for? But the way they go about it is they are using, as Luthen says always, using the tools of the enemy in order to strike them. He's taking away people's choices of things because they need to do that in order. That's their bad thing that they have to do. They have to do this to make it work, unfortunately. And it's great that she gets those lessons. I love, again, Luthen, again, doesn't feel like he's like completely committed to the cause of, at the beginning, he's not exactly committed to the cause of rebellion. It's more like he knows she is committed to the cause of rebellion, but he knows that she doesn't understand what that means, where he understands what that means. It almost felt like, to me, like he loved her, like he really loved her like a daughter. And which is why I go back to
that's one of the lines, right? If, am I your daughter now? And he goes, when it's convenient.
Right, exactly. I honestly think that I honestly will go back to my argument that I don't know if he would have been in the rebellion without her, but because she was so definitively like set in her goal, he's like, I don't know if I want to do this necessarily, but I know what it's going to take to do this. And if you're going to do this, I'm going to make sure you do this right. And it was all about her. And that was the part of it. I love that he like has her like, look at me. When the explosion goes off, he's like, you got to understand this is what you're doing. And I love the idea, like the other line he comes in real quickly. I lied. Get used to it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So good. I mean, he even starts off like kind of a coward.
Yeah.
Yeah. What him and I'm guessing he's at this time he's probably a separatist or.
I kind of got the feeling my own thought process was that it was like right after the fall. It was like the first years of the Empire. I still feel like he was an Imperial. They were mud troopers. They were kind of like the first kind of like taking over of planets that they need kind of thing, not necessarily separatists anymore, or maybe separatists like fringe. I got the feeling it was supposed to be post episode 3. I could be wrong, but like maybe like 1 year after because then like Clea, like she was like what 8 or 9, and like 15 years later for Andor kind of thing. Like she's like maybe like in her early 20s at that point potentially. So I don't know. It could be interesting to say. But
by the way, like he's kind of a coward.
Yeah.
At the start.
Yeah.
Yes, like they're killing civilians, so it's like he has a reason to be a coward. He doesn't want to go out there and do it, but you kind of almost like, dude, like, what are you like? Who even? This isn't the Luthen that we know,
right?
And then obviously he takes on Claire. He's a deserter. He's like Tommy Riordan. He pulled the door off a gunship, and then went started digging up artifacts with Claire, and
Are we saying
yeah,
we're going to get a Luthen versus his brother in an MMA ring at some point?
yeah, at some point. Well, not anymore, but
maybe we missed the May took place, or whatever. I don't know.
I wasn't expecting a flashback scene. I must say, like
Or a
a
lot of
flashback.
flashback scene, flashback
Yeah,
episode mostly.
I wasn't expecting it. Maybe from Cassian, maybe,
Right.
but not Luthen. I expected some kind of like
I appreciate the choice they made. They could have absolutely made that like a full episode. Like it could have been the entire episode could have been just the flashbacks, but they contextualized it with her and her mission to end up killing Luthen or whatever. To that kind of thing. It just added the great piece along the way. So it was a great way to choose to do that, I think. And watching her grow and watching her having to make those decisions, and I love the fact that the guys like the security forces after she does the deed, he's like had to be at least a team of 3 doing it. So it couldn't have been that. And they're like, no, it's just her, and she's just that damn good, and she has the smarts of it. She has great distraction moment, blowing up the ships to get people out of the room, using the grandma alien, which I'll talk about a little bit.
Yeah, pinning that.
Using all this, that was all great. And then but she also has a part where she is unhinged herself. Clea is very unhinged herself. She's kind of broken. She doesn't know what to do. She got the tears. She kissed Luthen on the head, which is a great moment too, because the whole time she kind of hates Luthen, but likes him too. She obviously has to hate him because he was part of the Empire that destroyed her family. So it's like she kind of that's always there, but obviously they've gotten to the point where she does respect him and have feelings for him, love for him as a father figure of sorts. Then afterwards, she's freaking out. She's trying to get them going, and then when Andor visits her, and she's all completely unhinged. Of course, it would be you. And she's like, I don't want to go to Andor. I'm going to Yavin to be in a prison. Yavin aren't my people. I don't have people, but I need you to get this. Luthen died for this. You need to say the words. Say the words. Jedha, Kyra, or you say the words and everything else. He's so intensely doing it. And when she gets there, she's she has this broken down moment. Well, what do I do now? And luckily, Vel kind of finds her. I kind of feel it almost felt like when you saw her walking on the rain afterwards, is she gonna go? Is she gonna go off herself? Is that what's gonna happen? Is she gonna?
I heard Joseph Scrimshaw say that as well, and I was like,
yeah, he did say
funny
that.
Because I felt the same way.
Same thing when Joseph said that too. I was like, yeah, I thought exactly the same. But Vel intervened. I think she would have. I think that was potentially going to be in her mind, but then Vel intervened, and it's and using the line of I have friends everywhere. Great. Wonderful way to tie that all in. Those are the weaponized words. Oh, you can trust me. You can trust me as far as a mission goes or as far as the rebellion goes. But the way Vel's saying it now is no, you actually have friends here. We are all your people now. You can live here. And that's what leads to that moment at the end where she does get that little smile, not smile, positive thoughts looking on the sunrise on Yavin 4. Great moment there. Let's see a couple other line. I still have some more line of dialogue. I'll save. Why don't we save yours for the end since it goes to the community or whatever. I do like Krennic's line during Dedra's his interview with Dedra. If you're not rebel spy, you've missed your calling. Like that as well. And then finally, I'll give a shout out to Cassian. Great sequence there when we have Andor first making it back to Yavin. They have that briefing with Mon, Bail, and the 2 senators, Pomlo and I forget the guy's name, or Pomlo and sort of the J, but either way. And they're all fighting there. Yeah, pretty much. They're all shouting down everything. And Cassian has this great it's insulting to hear him run down by people who have given a fraction of his sacrifice to this rebellion. And it's so true because it's awesome hearing that from Cassian, who has broken ties with Luthen. He doesn't agree with Luthen's methods, but at the same time, he respects the hell out of him. And he understands how much he's given. And I love the fact that Mon was looking a little weak during that because she wasn't backing him up a little bit. But then she had her moment where she just comes in permission to visit, permission granted really quickly. Permission granted. I don't care what you guys say. Permission granted. And then, of course, it leads to her going into later on talking about we have to talk, Bale. Because Mon is a strong character. She's not very confrontational at the moment, but when she gets her digs in, that shows her true leadership. Like it's like this. Like it reminded me a lot of Rogue One, where she doesn't like override. Like Jyn brings the idea, and everybody she wants to go to scare off and destroy the plans, and pretty much the council votes against it. And Mon's like, I can't override the council because she believes so much in democracy. She's like, I can't override the council. But as soon as Jyn takes off on her own with Cassian, and Mon hears about it in Rogue One, like what does she do? She has that nice like smile moment, like, yes, she did. Yes, she did. She took care of business.
I mean, she even says to Bear, it's just like it makes the Senate look easy, doesn't it?
Yep.
And it speaks a lot to, you know, the real world of like the other side essentially sitting on their hands, umming and ahhing about policy and procedure. And it's just like, no, get out there and do the work. Get out there and do something. Luthen was out there doing something. They were
100%.
just sitting on their hands waiting.
Yep, absolutely.
Like this
100%.
this isn't the Senate anymore.
No.
You're at war.
Absolutely. So,
And it speaks to what Saw was talking about on the hologram. It's just like I inconvenience you, and suddenly it's a problem. That's not me agreeing with Saw. For the record.
I know you don't.
Saw is still a piece of shit.
I know you don't like Saw. Although Saw was great in this movie. This arc too. Right? He has only a few amounts of bits and pieces of, but it's great seeing him being like completely unhinged. Like so, he gets that part where we see him in Rogue One where he is completely unhinged now. The whole like, you're trying to. And Mon's like, I'm trying to help you. I'm not against you. We're not sending anybody. Like I don't get what you're saying. Like we're getting people. No one's sending anybody to you. I'm trying to help you.
Help me to help you. Help me to help you.
It was great. It was powerful. I loved it. For sure. But yeah. So that's great. But okay, let's go into your moment. I'll bump up comedic moments to go after this. We'll go from there. So go ahead. What's your last line of dialogue? Speaking
of Scrubs quotes, there's a line in a Scrubs episode where Elliot is talking about how she has like a sixth sense for women who are pregnant. And there's a line where JD says, and it gets me to this day, and it cracks me up every day. Every time I hear it. My mom had a uterus. I lived in it. There was a line that the delivery really reminded me of that, and it cracked me up, was when K2 said, oh, I was in an Imperial parade, 200K extroids, and the Emperor was there.
I have to tell you, I honestly didn't like that thing as a comic line. I thought that was a haunting. I thought it was a terrifying line.
And it was just the way that Cassian responded. He was just like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I missed that.
Yeah. I get that. I could not I just thought that was a terrifying delivery from Alan Tudyk. I thought that was a K2SO's most dramatic moment. Like I really felt like he's showing how human he can be. Like even he was terrified.
I related it to the uterus line, but for some reason they just sounded the delivery sounded similar in my head, and I was just like, that's funny.
I get it, but at the same time, for whatever reason, it just was a powerful moment for me. I thought that was very harrowing. That was such a even K2SO knows what a monster he is.
Okay, I'll give you another funny line then, and then we can go into comedy.
Okay, that's fine.
Cassian, I have cleared a path. Dying. I was howling.
Yeah, pretty much every other K2SO line made me laugh. You know, like talking about the card game in general. All right, let's get into it. They're laughing up fuzzball. These are our favorite comic moments of the arc, and to me, it was almost all K2SO. The whole card game in general. He's trying to droid you, like you don't do that. Like the idea that they're on.
He's nervous. Another improbability.
And I take it my value has been. I didn't write the line down. I take it my value has been. I've proven my worth, whatever. And the
talking about the when he gets the warning, it's just like, would you like to hear the language? Is anybody interested? Nobody's interested. The man you don't like is here.
The man you don't like is yeah. Yes. They didn't want to hear him talk anymore. That is not true at all. That is not true. How many you don't know? Do you want to know how many orders we ignored? I've counted like 17. Clip 18.
But disobeying orders is so refreshing.
So refreshing. I hear the Rev Dog talking.
That was good.
Oh, so
what was the
good.
one? I just had one in my head as well. It was a real simple. When he's walking up to the trooper, he's like, "Are you with us?" And he just goes, "No."
Oh, so good, so good. The entire thing was great. The entire K2SO just made me laugh. I will throw the one non-K2SO moment. I think it's maybe where you pinned it, and it was the granny moment. It was.
Oh yeah.
So Clad just takes this poor patient,
takes this poor old Doris,
this old Doris, who like obviously has like no memory, or like I don't know. She's like, and she had no idea what's going on, and he like pushes her along, and she's like.
They're in the elevator, and Clay's just like, "What?" And this poor Doris is just like,
"Where did she end up?"
She just leaves her.
I know where did she end up? That poor lady. I mean, Clay, you can shoot poor Lonnie. Luther can shoot poor Lonnie in the beginning. I understand that, but this poor old granny, you're gonna leave her like that?
The way like when they stop her as well.
Right.
She's like talking to her, like she's like yelling at her. She's like, "We'll check you in here then." And I'm just like, she could probably hear you. You don't have to yell.
She's so fun. So bad. Are any other comic moments you wanna make it?
Just K. It's just K is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. How about put that in your Holocron and Snoke it? Explore more lore. We got anything to go? I have a couple different ones I want to talk about. But...
You go, because I'm still kind of umming and ahhing about mine. I'm not sure if I need to know more about it or if I'm a little bit curious.
Okay, the first one I'm gonna talk about is I don't know if I necessarily need to know more, but I'm kind of curious. Obviously, Cassian's sister. We got he dreams about her at the end. We didn't. I mean, it began the show. That was like the accelerant or whatever. That's what started the whole thing. Was Cassian looking for his sister, and then we kind of dropped it. We get the little touch in the end, and I kind of wonder if when they went from 5 seasons to 2, whether that was one of the things they decided to like excise out. But I don't know if it's going to be. I will say, as much as this would have been a member berries moment, and some people would have hated this, but I did have this feeling, and this is possibly me watching so much Star Wars. I'm waiting for it to happen. I did have this feeling like Leia might end up being Cassian's
sister. Yeah, because when I looked at the young actress that plays young Claire, I was like, that kind of looks like her. Yeah,
right. Okay, really
I did feel the same thing.
The same outfit, and we didn't see the planet they were on. Like we just saw him like. So I was like, is that what we're going to have doing? And then I almost like 20 Girl has come out and said it definitely isn't. And that's fine. I didn't need it to happen. It wasn't.
I know. I did listen to an interview. He was on some podcast that I was listening to where he did carry on because I'm trying to find this podcast where he did explain the reasoning for it.
Right. But in a way, the best part is I almost wish he hadn't come out and denied it, because I kind of think it would have been a fun open-ended thing, like open-ended like theory that like never need to say or confirm it. But like, how tragic would that have been if Andor had saved his sister? Like he went out to save his sister. He actually does save his sister and bring her to Yavin 4 and get her to Hope 8, and then he dies, but he never knows it's her. Like that's almost kind of like a Shakespearean kind of tragedy. I think it actually does fit the what the tone of the show would be beyond the. Is it not like some people do cry like, oh, it's been like an I am your father moment. We don't need all those in Star Wars. Everyone doesn't have to be related. I get that. I completely get that. But I think this, particularly the tone of the show, would have worked in a way that it could have been really kind of cool. I don't know. But either way, did you find the podcast?
I did. It was on Ringer TV. Tony Gilroy did. It's like it's like an hour-long interview with the guys on Ringer TV. It's the only episode I've ever watched of their show. But he said they did have plans for it, but because of the time constraints, they had to shorten it down. But he said it served as a device for to show that Cassian will never have that family life.
Oh, okay.
He lost his sister, he lost his mom, he lost
So he was never to find her. No matter
he was
even
never
the
gonna
original.
find. He was never gonna
Okay.
find her.
Okay.
It was just kind of a plot device to show that Cassian has this greater purpose.
Right. Okay.
That he will never have that loving. Yeah, he's collecting, like the Force Healer says, he's collecting these people along the way. He's never gonna have
Right.
that set like family life that he wants because his purpose is greater than that.
Makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Mm.
And I actually like that. And that's why when I wanted to bring it up in this segment, I don't know if I actually need more of it. I think I'm okay with it like being left as is, but it did make me, it seemed like the best place to talk about it, I guess, in a way, as far as it goes. All right, I have a couple other ones. One, so I guess Tony Gilroy in a discussion with somebody, there was a moment in time where Leia was going to appear. Leia was going to appear in the Senate. They're going to have a scene between Mon Mothma and
Is it because she
Leia.
was secretly Claire?
No, God, no.
Did you see the people that were saying that shit?
Did see that, and those I'm
So
sorry.
dumb.
Sorry, media literacy is dead sometimes, and I'm loving it. I love a good theory. I love a good crackpot theory, but like there's a level, guys. That was beyond. Some people were so into it, like no. But that Leia was going to appear like in a scene in the Senate with Mon Mothma. They couldn't quite make it work. They actually had discussions with Kathleen Kennedy and with Pablo Hidalgo about it. Actually, it actually had gotten to a point, but they never got to like a recast, like a casting. But it kind of would have made sense that because Leia was visiting the Senate at that point with Bail, and I would love to see Mon and Leia have scenes together because like I know it's the old EU in me, but I love the fact that they work really well together. And after Return of the Jedi, they are pretty much heading up the New Republic together. So having them have a back history together on scene with Genevieve O'Reilly, especially the way she's been performing, I would love to see that scene come into play somewhere. I don't know. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, I would love to have seen Tony do it because Tony really had a handle on it. It would have been really cool. But again, that's part of that member berries thing. I understand why they didn't do it, especially because like that would have put the whole show onto Leia at that point. It would have taken away from the show itself potentially. But I do want that story, so it'd be kind of cool to see more of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have one more. Do you have one you want to learn out before I go to the last one?
I've been kind of umming and ahhing about this one for a couple of weeks now. I want to know what the hell Melshi did. I want to know more of Melshi's story.
Right.
He just seems like there's some depth there.
Yeah.
That we haven't got to see yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if they give Duncan like his own show or like a comic or a novel, but I don't know. There's something about Melshi that, especially after seeing them like playing cards and going on a mission while they're still drunk, like he seems like a character they could get in depth, almost like in the comics what they did with Sabe. I think they could do with Melshi.
You're not wrong. Like he's not someone. If you never heard more about Melshi, like it is what it is. But I think he is well known enough that, yeah, it would be interesting to see what led him in there, what got him imprisoned, what did he do like during, what is he doing that I'd love to see more. I mean, I forget who said it. If it was Tyler, somebody I watched it with or I talked about it. I'm sorry to not credit somebody, but somebody mentioned to me like one of the things that they didn't like about the time jump thing is they really wanted to see Cassian and Melshi's reuniting.
Yeah, I heard this about people want to see more of Cassian and K2 as well, which I fully agree. I want to see. I think we all want to see more Cassian and K2, but like,
right.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see that them come back together on Yavin.
Right, absolutely. That would have been kind of cool. So I guess I would like to see more Melshi at some point. I mean, I don't need to because he's kind of a background character, but I definitely appreciate that you'd want to see more, and I understand that.
That was Mon Mothma at one point.
Absolutely. You're not, again, going back to do we need this? And actually, someone else, like Christian said this on a live stream talking about it. Somebody projected, would you want to see a full-on Luthen and Clea, the younger years kind of series or something like that? Yes. And Christian said, no, not necessarily, for the same reason as you, like Tony Gilroy is not going to do it and let him go off and do his own thing. But he goes at the same time, though, I wasn't excited about Andor, and yet here it goes. I guess it depends on what they give me, but so that potential is obviously there.
The right people on it.
Yeah. Seeing Clea, I wouldn't mind seeing a young Luthen and Clay storyline continue. And hell, maybe that could be an animated show at some point too, if they don't want to go live action route as well. That could be something we could see down the line eventually, or tying in. I would be surprised. I wonder how much. I feel like Tony Gilroy is such a premier, but so detached a little bit from the stories that people don't. It's not like Ahsoka. Oh, Ahsoka, I guess it is like Ahsoka in a way. Do people want to use Tony Gilroy characters? Or they're not going to use the Tony Gilroy characters. Like Bail and Mon, obviously, are characters, even Cass to a degree, are characters that you can use throughout the entire Star Wars saga if you have places you can put them in, because they're Star Wars characters. The ones that were created by Gilroy, it's kind of like, feel like, is it almost too like, do you want to let Tony keep Tony's characters? I don't know. I don't know what that meant necessarily, how I feel about that. Like, now it's over. Do we get to see Luthen appear like in the Maul show? Could Luthen technically appear in the Maul show? Because you know what I mean? Like, we don't really know necessarily. He's in the timeline now, and now his story. I think for a while he wouldn't happen because we're got to let Tony tell his story. Like, obviously we don't want to insert something. That's why Mask of Fear. They mentioned they had to talk to Tony about using Perrin, because Perrin was a Tony Gilroy creation. And can we use him? Or do we want to? Because they're worried about, like, we have to let Tony Gilroy tell his story, but like not fill any blanks because there's no blanks yet. We want Tony Gilroy.
Still defending Perrin after this arc.
You're goddamn right I am, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. So that's actually my next thing. So what I was saying, but going back to this is like, now the story is over, and Tony's filled in all the pieces of information he's generally going to fill in. Could we see like Luthen appear in other media? And I think we could. I think it'd be kind of fun to see. Like, I'd love to see Luthen appear in the next book, the next book in the Mask of Reign of the Empire trilogy or whatever as it is. Good stuff there. But I see Jack wants him too as well. Let's go. I'll go to my next thing, and it is Perrin. And here's why I'm going to say it.
I know
that. Two things. I'm going to stick. The first thing I'll stick to what was shown on screen, which is fine. What we get at the end is Perrin a rich coward who seems pretty depressed about losing Mon Mothma, about losing his wife. Yeah, he's shacking up with Davo Sculdun's wife. Yeah, he is. So is he the greatest character? No. Does he have piece of shit tendencies? Absolutely. But there's more to that man. There's more depth to that man. Interesting enough, one piece of deleted stuff that didn't happen is there was actually a sequence that Davo Sculdun was in charge of one of the networks, and that he was going to be responsible for keeping Mon Mothma's speech on the air. Partially, that was like something that was toyed with and everything else, and that's maybe why Davo Sculdun is not around. Why Perrin and the wife are together now, because Davo might not be around because of what he potentially did.
So if he did go and do that, you go and sleep with the guy that helped your wife's wife.
At this point, they're both gone. They both have lost their spouses. They're just looking for comfort. They don't know anything else at this point. Looking for comfort.
Okay.
Let me
put this to you. Put Kim in Mon Mothma's shoes, right? Mm-hmm. She's not dead. You could reach out to her if Mon could reach out to Perrin if she really needed someone to. You wouldn't go to Yavin with her? You wouldn't go to Yavin with Kim? You'd stay in Boston, New York, and
to quote Tony Bissell, which is the big thing I'm bringing up, a scene that is headcanon because they didn't film it. I get it, it's headcanon.
Headcanon, don't count.
It does count if the stuff if Padme stuff in episode 3 counts of the formation of the Republic, that counts. It complete counts in my head. What Tony Gilroy intended for the Perrin character. So to me, it's canon enough. Deleted confirms that there's going to be an interesting moment. Tony Gilroy performed it. Perrin is saying, "I knew what you were up to this whole time. They talked to me every week. They'd interrogate me. I never said a word. You didn't trust me. You could have trusted me." And the heartbreak she would feel in that moment of this guy she had pushed out could have been reliable. Double heartbreak of her walking away from her life, thinking she's dropping this deadbeat husband who never supported her, and the double dagger stab that he was supporting her the entire time. That's what I wanted to say. It did. As far as it
didn't happen.
It did happen.
It didn't happen. We didn't see it. It didn't happen.
If Tony Gilroy said it happened, it happened. That's all I care about. You can say it didn't. As far as you're concerned, that's fine.
He said he wanted it to happen.
If that happened on screen, what would you have said?
Then I would have said okay.
And you would have been okay with Perrin? A little more okay with Perrin?
No, I wouldn't have been okay with him, but I would have been like, okay, cool, I get you.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going with it. That's my headcanon. I don't care. I'm defending Perrin at the end of the day, because as far as I'm concerned, unless it's shown otherwise, then that's what happened. So yes, and I would like to see more. I would love to see that moment in a Tales of Andor animated scene special or something like that.
All I'm saying is, if that had been my wife, I would have been on the first shuttle to Yavin.
He has to protect his daughter, man. Who's going to protect Lita?
She's with Skalden's kid.
You trust Skalden to protect her?
You trust Perrin to protect her?
Perrin does. It's not about what I trust. Does Perrin trust Skalden to protect his daughter?
Perrin wouldn't be able to protect his daughter.
How do you know? 20 Gilroy seemed to think he could. 20 Gilroy seemed to think he could. He got interrogated every week and didn't give her up.
I'm not buying
Mon Mothma can't raise his daughter anymore. Can't be there for the daughter anymore.
Perrin can be.
She can't. She's going to take Lita to Yavin 4, where the Death Star is going to come leaning down on her.
Yeah, why not?
That's great. That's great parenting. Let's put her in a war zone. Let's take the daughter and put her in a war zone.
Yeah.
Yavin 4. The Death Star is about to blow up the planet.
How long were the Jedi doing that for? Seemed to work out okay.
No, that's an idea that the Jedi probably shouldn't have done. At least the Jedi are bringing warriors in. They were trained to be in there. Lita's going to break a nail, and she'd been like
from the way you're describing Perrin, it sounds like he could have been a Jedi. Is
that's exactly the thing. Don't turn it that much. I've said the entire time he's not.
Is that another one of your crackpot theories that Perrin is a Jedi?
No, I have said the entire time he's not a hero. But I honestly think, and this is all jokes aside about what you're saying, I honestly think that would have added to this, because the show is all about these characters who are the various degrees of rebellion against a fascist state. And I think it's important to showcase that we have heroes like Cassian Andor, like Luthen, who does the dirty work. We have heroes like Mon Mothma, who make grand statements in the face of the million. But there are characters also like Perrin.
I thought you said they're about to be heroes like Perrin. I was like,
no, there are characters like Perrin who fight the Empire in their own small way, because they can't. Everyone
has their own rebellion.
Right. And I think that's an important piece of what they show. The bellhop was heroic. Small piece he's forgotten. Lonnie, great heroism, gets shot by Luthen, forgotten. But there's other pieces of it. There are people like I'm trying to think, like the guy, like there's things like people like who look the other way to help the rebellion out, like small pieces like that. I'm not saying he's a hero. I'm not saying he's a good guy, but there's a lot more depth. That's what the show did. There's a lot more depth to his character, and I would love to have seen that. Not just because it was a pet theory of mine, but because it confirmed my pet theory. That's exactly what I remember when I predicted my theory was that he was going to look the other way. He was going to like point the bad guys in the wrong way. This is something like what I predicted, like the idea that he could have been there, and that he was being interrogated and didn't give her up, or whatever it was. So I don't know. At the end of the day, he's day drinking. He's sad. The Empire. He's against the Empire.
Let's not decry day drinking. We're all guilty of it.
So exactly. So don't decry poor Perrin for coping in the only way he can.
Perrin. If there's one thing that man is not, is poor.
He's poor. He's finding comfort in the arms of the woman who is there at this point. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Move on.
All right, we'll move on.
Perrin, watch next.
Yes, I love it. Thanks for putting it. Thanks for suggesting it. That's will be our next thing. Perrin watch. I love Perrin. I'm a Perrin guy.
You and two other people.
Perrin defender. That's right.
You, Tony Gilroy, and the guy that plays Perrin.
Perrin did no wrong. Hashtag Perrin did no wrong. Perrin is not guilty. All right, let's move on then to seeing a lot of action. Is our favorite action beats of the arcs. Definitely much more action-oriented arc these had going around. I'm gonna throw the first one out there for you, and I think we both would agree. Probably, I'm gonna bet is our favorite one. It's K2SO in the safe house.
K2 hallway scene.
The hallway gets his own hallway scene basically, and the horror moment. I love the moment when he grabs Hurt and uses him as
I hold him up.
It's like you see the dead body going like it's blocking the shots. Horrible. And like he throws the guy the Imperial, like there you see that also you have the POV of Cassian and Melshi and Clea. And also you see the guard like into the hallway through the door there.
The mustache man, yeah.
Great moment, great action beat right there. Fun moment for sure.
When he just fucking boots that one guard into the lift.
Just go all the way through. And the one he said before too, he just knocks the guy out. Are you with it? Oh, no.
And the guy that was in the Lander class shuttle that essentially like got his head burnt into the console, and you just see like the blood just overheating the console and the shuttle. I was like,
yes,
fucking gnarly.
So good, so good.
What else was there that we could say was?
I mean, not necessarily complete action, but he did get the blaster shot of the killing of Lonnie.
The killing of R.I.P. Lonnie.
What a great!
Did you hear what the original plan was supposed to be?
The elevator.
Him and Luthen walking into the elevator, and then the elevator opening up, Luthen walking out, and then it closing on Lonnie's boot. And Tony Gilroy was like, "No, we do it. He's gonna be." At first, I thought it was like, did he get sniped?
Right.
Was there like someone, because a lot of the shots of that park were like big, wide open, overhead shots. I was like, a sniper could very easily just like sit in like one of those buildings across and then just.
Yep.
But then I thought about it, and like the way that Luthen was walking along the steps, I was like, oh no, Luthen just killed him.
Yeah. What a moment. It was a wonderful moment, though, I gotta say. Like, it was powerful, it was earned, it was honest, but you gotta feel bad for Lonnie.
Kids.
Right? Doesn't matter. Again, it goes back to taking away the choices of the people who are working for you. Like, this is why Mon didn't trust him and why he almost shouldn't be trusted. Lonnie was a patsy the whole time, and all he did was try to do right. There's a guy in the Imperial who tried to do right, and then at the end of the day, he gets shot. Which is obviously called back to Rogue One, which we'll talk about next week, when like Cassian becomes Luthen, basically just takes out Tivik, just like Luthen would have, even though he's on his side doing information. Like, it's sad. It's a sad moment, and Lonnie is an underrepresented hero of the rebellion, and no one knows about it. No one knows about it except for Clan now, pretty much.
And that is why no one will know your name.
That's right. No one will know your name. So, wow, good stuff for sure. Any other big action beats? We had like obviously a few little action beats and the flashbacks, the killing of the children, the killing of the kids there, the shooting of the kids.
Yeah, I don't really want to highlight that. That was a bit like could have done without that, especially with like just having the Gorman massacre. Just felt like a bit like,
right.
We get it, Tony. We get it. Like, women and children died. It wasn't just the men, but the women and children too.
Right.
Yeah, we get it.
Well, I did love the aspect of they're still finding people. They keep finding people to blame for the death of the one person. Like that line, like I was like, oh man, that's up, man. That's effed up.
Just it was kind of an action comedy moment. But when the U-Wing is flying back into Yavin, and K2's like, they'll just shoot us down like an enemy drone, and Cassie just goes, shut up, K. And the two X-Wings just appear beside them, and K just goes. Like, it's supposed to be quite a tense moment.
Right.
K is just like, hello.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, good call there for sure. All right, I think that's enough of the action. I actually had Krennic's finger as an action moment because that's how the assault was pretty much under action.
That's assault, brother.
That's assault, brother. All right, so let's clean up anything else we want to clean up before we get to Force Vision and Parsecs. I will say one thing we haven't talked about yet that I really want to mention. I have loved Partagaz since we first met him as a character.
Yeah, I think we should save this part.
His character was so necessary to the story. I mentioned mustache twirling villains, and he is not a mustache twirling villain at all. He is very just a competent, does his job well. I don't even know how much
one in the room.
Smartest one in the room, and you don't even really ever fully know, is he committed to the Empire or is he committed to just doing his job well, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of thing like that moment where he listens to Nemec's manifesto, which is awesome that he's hearing it. Hearing Nemec's voice is like, oh God.
When
he heard it,
when the
and he
other
goes,
Imperial walked in and
right.
he was listening to that, I was like, oh, is it Pargaz that sold Dedra out? Did Pargaz frame Dedra because obviously he didn't like her towards the end? I was like,
Right.
Is Pargaz a mole?
That would have been interesting, but I'm almost glad they didn't do it because I kind of think
I'm glad they didn't do it because I think his ending was very.
It would undercut him the entire time because like I like the idea that he's on the Imperial side, but not necessarily a mustache twirling villain. Him having being a rebel makes a little like it would have been cool, but like I think overall it does his character better to stay Imperial. But him hearing that noted that him being the key, like man, it's like in not fear, but like awe, like it just doesn't stop spreading. It keeps spreading. Like we can't
But
stop it.
yeah, it comes back to how he said that it was the rebellion is like a disease.
Mm-hmm. It was brilliant, a brilliant moment, and great delivery. And then, of course, he ends up killing himself. And then that seemed like, again, I've seen some like media literacy about this. Like a lot of people were like saying, "Oh, he came to this realization that he hated the Empire, and he was doing the wrong thing, and he was on the wrong side." And that's why I'm like, "No, my dude."
He pulled a Hitler.
He pulled a hell exactly. He didn't want to face Palpatine or Vader like that. He's like,
the Russian troops were closing in around him, and he didn't want any part of it.
I am done. Yeah, it's all over, and I'm gonna go out on my own terms. It was like the integrity of the, and he's the kind of character you're happy to that, like the integrity of the character. Not happy, you know, I'm never happy, but you know what I mean. As far as that goes, like it makes sense for the character wise, and I absolutely loved for the first time, the only time in the entire series, I actually really liked Legret. I think that's his name, Legret, right?
Legret, yep.
Yeah, Legret just walks out. He knows what's going to happen. He walks out knowing that part of guys. He's like, "Can I collect my thoughts?" It's like, "Yes, sir." And he walks out, and I love that. You hear the thing, you hear the blaster, and you see like subtle, like the hand, just like,
yeah, it's just like give it a minute.
In a minute, yeah. It's
let the walls collect what's left of his thoughts.
Right,
his brain splattered all over him.
Yeah, it's so powerful for sure, and a great ending to a great character. So
that's what I was. When that did happen, I was like, "Oh, are we about to get Sheev? Are we getting?" And I'm glad we didn't.
I'm very glad we didn't.
Really glad we didn't.
I'm very glad we didn't.
Pargaz's ending there was perfect. It was pitch perfect. It was literally the end. It was Adolf Hitler's end.
Mm-hmm.
It was closing him around him. He was done. He had nowhere left to go.
Mm-hmm.
Gun to his mouth. He didn't escape to Argentina. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So good. So good. Anything else that any other things we've missed? We talked about.
I love the Force healer moment in the montage.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
As he's walking to the U-wing and he just looks at her.
Just a nod. He's accepted his place. He's accepted his piece. Where he goes.
She doesn't know what his destiny is, but the fact that like just that brief interaction like set him on the path.
I want to highlight again, this is something I mentioned in the last arc because of the actual scene between them. Initially, it was like, I love how they chose to incorporate the Force, because this is obviously not a lightsaber show, Force show. It's just not a mystical show per se, but they do add that mysticism back in to let you know it's still a part of there. It's just not the focus. This is more about the heroes of the rebellion that aren't the Force users. Like the stormtroopers are scary to them because they don't have Force powers. They don't have lightsabers. That's why stormtroopers are so powerful for them. But it also says that everybody does have connection to the Force. It flows through us all.
Yeah, and I encourage everyone to go watch Scotty Jarrah's panel from Celebration is now on YouTube. I strongly suggest everyone go watch it because it explains how if you are more aware of the living Force, how much it becomes stronger in you because you are aware of it, you have accepted it.
Right.
At that point, Cassian, he's on his way. He hasn't accepted it quite yet. He's more of an agnostic at this point. He was an atheist before, now he's an agnostic.
Right.
When he gets to Scarif, then it's like, okay, I saw your face. Now I'm a believer.
Yeah, I'm a believer. That's Monkeys playing over Andor. All right. I love it. You know what we haven't talked about, and we haven't talked about Bix at the end. Son of Andor.
I thought we were
daughter of
going to
Andor.
get that into the Force Vision. So you want to talk about it now? Or you want to do it
we could talk about. We could do it. I think we can do it both places. Save the
Okay.
future stuff for later.
Well,
But take about some part now.
I'm just going to give the audience some context. PLD messaged me, PLD DM'd me the other day saying, what if Bix is pregnant? And I was like, there's no way Tony would do that. Like, that's like too tragic. There is no limit this man will go to break my heart.
Yeah.
Having a child that will never know its father.
I have to say it. I did. I had that thought after the trailer. I say kind of came to me. I was like, what is happening? And you're like, yeah, no, I can't. No, don't happen. And I got to say.
Did you see what Adam Hlavik said about it?
No, what did he say?
He said that during the scene where Bix is talking to the Force Healer and the Force Healer grabs her hand.
Yes.
The camera is pointed at Bix's stomach.
Yes. Yes.
And when he said that, I was like, fuck, PLD's onto something.
Yep. It happened. And the funny thing is, like, if you listen to Tony after added, like, thought he wanted to end that way not because of a tragedy, he thought it'd actually inspire more hope in the story. And I understand where he's coming from. It did break your heart more, but it does inspire some bit of hope. We get to see, like, Bix and his son or daughter. Everybody's saying son, but I don't know if we actually confirmed that. Either way, child is looking out.
They had a little devil lock, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, that was very cool. I do like the idea, like, if you somebody put this on social media, I wish I can tell who it was. A shot of, like, Cassian and Jin, like, embracing themselves as, like, the sun over the sun, and it looked almost similar to, like, Bix and the sun being there, like the last shots.
I saw someone put the last shot of Andor to the like synced it up with the last shot of Rogue One.
Right.
It made me pissed off at Cassian because I was just like, bro, Bell told you to reach out to Bix and don't take too long. And it also made me think a little bit like, bro, Cassian, you're a fucking deadbeat dad, dude.
But here's a question I have. The two questions I have. All right, so Vel? We think Vel knew.
Vel knew,
and Vel was telling him for that reason, but didn't want to tell him. So Cassian did not know. I think that's correct. Like, Cassian did not know because Cassian had
no idea.
Okay, I want to make sure because, like, that's the one drawback of the year time jump. Like, we don't necessarily know if Bix is Bell is saying talk to her, but, like,
because Vel said reconnect with her, which makes me think they haven't spoken since she left.
That time, yeah.
And Cassian said she won't be safe if she's with me, so he's like staying. It's like the Peter Parker with Mary Jane, like he's staying completely away.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a powerful moment, though, and I do think, even though it does break your heart a little bit more, it is also a little bit more hopeful to a degree too. I got to say, I love it. I love it myself. Yeah. So anything else? Because we talked about the Luthen things, talked about Luthen and Dedra, talked about Clay, Luthen, talked about the safe house. Clay and Cassian had their moments. They didn't talk much about that, but I do like their moments together.
Can I throw in one last comedy moment as well that I just remembered?
Oh yeah, throw it in there.
The Radio Shack technician, Imperial.
Yes.
And just the
smile, like the smirk, like the giddiness of, like, ooh, they did really good here. Oh, I gotta shut up now.
That was funny. It wasn't the funniest part.
Okay.
Of when she looks across at the other guy and he's like, shut up. Like, not now.
I love it. That was good. All right, let me see if there's anything else I want to throw in there. I can see more Draven, which is cool. Got to see more. Oh, I know something I want to talk about. The last
Draven's a dick.
Well, but he's necessary.
He's necessary, but goddamn, he's such a dick.
I love the idea that I love the Bale sequence at the end, though, too. The Bale and Cassian,
the man you don't like is here.
Man you don't like is there. I did love that for a couple of reasons because, man, like, first of all, like, PJ mentioned this to me. He's like, Bale came off like a dick in the earlier parts when he's, like, denying Luthen, but at the same time, I wrote back, like, you gotta look at Bale's point of view, and from his point of view, everything he's saying makes sense. Like the idea of questioning Luthen's sanity, questioning Luthen's like, is this real information? Luthen doesn't want to work with us. Luthen, like, he's skeptical, and he's understandably skeptical. But he does come off a little bit, obviously, because our audience's point of view is that we know Luthen's right and we know what we need, and that Cassian's our, so he's like he slides a little bit down that antagonist tail a little bit. Then he has his moment at the end and it showcases exactly who he is, and I love the sad but truthful moment. And he's like, kind of like, you're getting your orders. Like Bale came himself. He didn't have to do it. Bale came himself. Didn't have to. He could just send Traven. Could have just like sent Mon. Mon could have done it. Bale comes himself and he's like, you're doing this. And he's like, well, why? I don't get it. And he's like, well, I'm going to fight the Empire. I'm going to die fighting the Empire. I want to go down swinging, which is very sad when it comes to it, because he really doesn't end up swinging too much, unfortunately, which is very sad. I almost
ended up laying there.
God, Alderaan blowing up is going to have even more like drama for me now. But I love Luthen. I love Cassian's response. You and Luthen would have got along more than you think you would have. And then the use of the line, "May the Force be with you," which you haven't heard in the entire freaking series. And how hard did it? I liken it. Not quite as well done, but I liken it to Ryan Coogler holding back on the Rocky theme in Creed at the very end. It's like the same type of thing where, like, all of a sudden, when you use it, it just became that much more powerful. It's much like using the Star Wars theme at the end in a way, too. It's kind of like, oh, here we are. There it is. And it makes sense that's Bale doing it, because that's we've learned in the books.
There it is.
There it is. And we know Bale is with the Jedi. He's a very important, like, he has his history of the Jedi and the Force. He's Jedi
very much, he even uses the term justice for the Jedi.
Justice for the Jedi, absolutely. In The Mask of Fear, which was a great book by Alexander Frig, you should read. If you haven't. Great bit there. So him saying that at the end, it's like, was that boom moment for me. Also, we did get to see B2EMO for one last look. I was happy for you. My prediction came wrong. I was never happier for a prediction of mine to come wrong. Poor Matty.
Uncle B2. He's there. He's safe. He's all right.
Absolutely.
He's living a peaceful life.
Living a peaceful life. Oh, you know what? There's another one humorous point I want to make. The security technician at the hospital, he's like, he's trying to go through the footage of where Clay was. He's like, my friend, my cousin has a application with ISP with a new note to speed up and shut up. Yes. And by the way, great Easter egg there. I don't know if you noticed or not. Do you know the name of the hospital?
Oh, Lena So.
Lena So Hospital, which is obviously Lena So, the former chancellor of the Republic during the High Republic era. So good job. Tony Gilroy's friends. That wasn't a Tony Gilroy thing, obviously.
Yeah.
He has no idea who Lena So is. He probably still doesn't know who Lena So is.
Probably a Pablo thing.
Right, the story group thing for sure. But I love that little connectivity. By the way, I'm in Temptation of the Force now, by the way. That's what I'm reading now. So I'm excited about that. We'll talk about that next week too. I think that'll be something we'll add on to the story. It'll update my readings. But yeah, I think that's it though. I think overall, anything else you want to mention that you missed?
Let's get to the Force Vision.
All right, let's do Force Vision then, Manny. You got one to Force?
I've seen a lot of people saying that either Poe is Cassian's son, or Ryan Gosling's character in Starfighter is going to be Cassian's son. I don't want to see Cassian's child in any storytelling.
Ever. Because
it will diminish the sacrifice that Cassian made. Cassian made the sacrifice so his wife and his child never had to worry about war ever again. And I think if he or she becomes this resistance fighter, yes, it would be cool. Yes, it would be a nice way to honor Cassian by following in his footsteps. But it would also mean that what Cassian died for was for nothing. So I just hope, I'm going to go out and say my Force Vision is Bix and Cassian's child live a life of peace.
Happily ever after.
They have the happily ever after that Cassian never got to have.
Artistically, I completely agree with you, and I completely understand that point of view, and I honestly I don't disagree with it. I think Star Wars is too member berry
Yeah,
involved.
that's what I'm worried about. I'm hoping that
I
Tony at least had the presence of mind at the end of it to say with those two, because in Declassified he said to Adria, sorry, wait to the end for you. So I'm thinking that he was saying that is your big moment.
yeah.
Like, because Bix was fairly sidelined.
Oh, well, I can get that, especially for the
A
for the
lot,
final arc for sure. Absolutely.
a lot of people are saying how they think it's because Bix has Cassian's child. I
Mm,
disagree. I think it's because the big moment is her and Cassian's child finally get to live in peace and
right.
have that happily ever after that Cassian wanted to have.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's her big moment.
I don't disagree with you. I think that I agree. I think, but I do think Star Wars member berries are strong for some people. I will say that because they are Gilroy's characters, maybe they'll be respectful. I don't think it's not going to be Ryan Gosling. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. That's
And it's
not going to
not
be at all.
Poe. Just
No.
because
Oh
they're
God,
both
no. That's the
Latinos,
worst.
like,
We already have like there's canon retconning stuff, but that's like a big piece of canon to retcon at this point. I think like K2SO is meeting him. The speech changing words, Ahsoka book to series being like streamlined a little bit, but you're gonna completely erase the Kes Shanabay and Kes Dameron and all that stuff they had going on with Poe. That's not gonna happen. There's no way that happens. Um, I, I wouldn't be surprised if like 10 years down the road, that's something we do get something like that. His character appears somewhere, and but I honestly agree with you. I think we should. I think that's where we should end that. I think that's the perfect way to end that story. And I don't
if
want
they
to see
do, I
anybody else.
don't want him or her to be a resistance fighter. I
Yeah,
want their character to be
yeah.
like they show up on the wheat farm,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. He's just they're just a wheat farmer.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
it.
mean, again, show me how it's done before I completely
Yeah.
judge it. I could see a world where like maybe Bix dies of old age, and
Mm,
then we see Andor's child decide to go out into the universe and do something
mm.
and get caught up into something maybe. But like I agree, I don't want to see them full on doing anything too much like that. I agree. I agree to a degree that we shouldn't do anything further with them. I'd like to
Yeah,
see
to
them
me,
though.
I would actually be very disappointed if they did.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be a case of I don't want to see this. It'd just be a case of, well, what did Cassian
Okay.
sacrifice himself for then?
Here's a question for you because it's part of my first vision in a way, and I feel like there's some similarities to this, but I don't know if I feel as strongly about it.
Mm.
Clea.
Mm.
Getting more from Clea. Is she done now? I mean, she's earned her.
I
She's
think so.
definitely
This is
earned her
her first
rest.
acting gig.
No, I mean like the character. I'm saying though, like she's
Yeah,
earned
this is
her.
what I'm saying. This is Elizabeth's first acting gig. Give her more.
Right. Yeah, I think we could. I think having her come back doesn't ruin her
Mm.
ending as much. Like I do think there's some poetic justice that the last thing we see of her is finally getting her sunrise. To a degree.
Did you
I
see
would
the
definitely
other theory
prefer the
about who
younger
she
one.
might be?
No, maybe. I don't know.
Some absolute crackpot said that she's Afra.
Oh God, no, no, God, no, people, no, no. Not everybody is somebody else. Like that doesn't happen. It's
She's
not right.
Mephisto.
And it's Mephisto. That's more likely than Afra, I think, honestly. Um,
She's Mara Jade.
but I could see Clea come back
Yeah,
potentially down the line at some
I
point.
would like her to.
I'd see more from her for sure. My other Force vision I do want to see more of. I really desperately really want to see, and I know it would be without Tony Gilroy, so there's a little hesitation for it as far as this goes. But Mon Mothma, I would like to see more while
I
we
think
have Jennifer O'Reilly. I mean, I think we'll see her probably. We already saw her at Ahsoka, so she'll be there. And there's a difference there. Again, I'm not one to hark on like the writing obviously style. Dave Filoni is much different, and Tony Gilroy is much different. And my mother really got her best due with Tony Gilroy. But I do think we get to see more from Genevieve in more storytime where she is the focus. Right in Ahsoka, she's not the focus at all. She'll be like a side piece in a way. So I don't like. I would love to see him more. I really want to see more between like Six and Bloodlines, the formation of the Republic, how that politics went down, her and Leia together. I don't know. I would love to see more from Mon Mothma. I think we should. I think the character has gotten enough like love now. Like that people are like, oh, it's not just Mon Mothma, that you know the old lady at the end of episode 6, the head of the rebellion we don't see, and we got to see her a little bit in Clone Wars. And now I think we have respect on her name. I could see like people want to go like we have Genevieve O'Reilly right there. We should use her and get her involved in more post episode 6 stuff.
Do you know who I want to see more of? And we can end on this. That we have completely forgotten to talk about within this arc. Give me more Raddus, baby.
Well, it'd definitely be a prequel, obviously, but yeah, I get that for
Doesn't
sure.
matter. Give me more Raddus. I pop big. I pop big when Raddus came on screen.
I did too. I was loving it. I loved her in that. I like the name drop from Merrick. I guess Merrick probably couldn't get him to come back for whatever reason. I feel like, yeah, scheduling thing. Who knows? I'm gonna throw it back out there. I know you don't want to hear it, but if we get more Mon Mothma story, we could actually find out her and Perrin getting together again. Anyway, let's go with our parsecs out of 11 on a scale of 1 to 11 because we always turn these up to 11 here on PLD Projects. Let's rate these last 3 episodes. Matty, what did you rank the 3 episodes?
11, 11, 10.5.
Oh, okay, interesting. It's like the opposite of what I did the last arc. I went with 11, 10, 11. Actually, 10.5. They're all pretty perfect, close to perfect. I love a good, as much as I railed against member berries a little bit, I still love a good member berry. So the ending of the last episode,
yeah, that's just
gave me everything I wanted. To be honest with you, it gave me everything. Especially because like there was a lot of like comparing it to like the last arc. It's a lot whatever, but like this gave me what I needed to move forward. So I did love that moments for sure. So yeah, and I love the Clea Luthen stuff so much that the 11 that hit me for that, giving the 11 of that. The second part, it was more just so action oriented. I did think we could have had more from Mon. That's a little bit me being spoiled because I love Mon's. Like Mon was my breakout character of this entire two seasons. I loved watching her story go. We'd love to see more of that. But I understand what we did. Got it. Her big hurrah was the 9th episode, and I get that. But getting to see more would have been nice. But overall, still, it's pretty near perfection. Season 2. To me, season 2 blew season 1 out of the water overall, honestly, and I loved season 1. like I loved season 1 a lot, and season 2 was just even that much better. I thought. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I could say. So why don't we end it there? Unless you have anything last, you're good.
Nope.
All right,
PLD, take us on.
Matty, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on all social media at Matty Morna. You can find my band Morna on all streaming platforms. You can find me here every week You find me here every week on PLD Projects for Holy Snokes, and every month for Class Action.
You can indeed, and you can find me at Paul Denuzio on Blue Sky. That's where I hang out generally. I've been going back to Twitter a little more because a lot of the news people are there, and that's where I go. I really love. There's some people there that I just don't get to interact with on Blue Sky. But I'm mostly on Blue Sky. Honestly, if you find me Blue Sky, I'd be happier. Find me all over the podcast. Obviously, I do a lot of shows on this channel. My name is on the tin, as Matty says. Every week right now, I do Holy Snokes. Next week, we're going to cover Rogue One, the rewatch with the recontextualization of Andor Season 2. And you can also find me every other week with review. Me and Lego finishing up the 2009 remake of V now before moving on. Thank God. Not liking the end. Not liking actually any part of the remake. Being really honest with you, it's been a long slug. We were completists, so we got to go through it. We'll move to the Big Finish audio stuff, which actually is really good. So I can't wait to actually review that. My Queen podcast every week. We're finally finishing up the Flash Gordon soundtrack soon. I believe next week. I've done so many of them. Recorded so many of them. I can't remember where we are release wise. I think we're finishing up the Flash Gordon one next week, which we'll get into Roger Taylor's first solo album, Fun in Space. And of course, you can see me to Middle-Aged Geeks on Film. I almost went with the old title. And PJ going through the Superman franchise. We had to do Superman. We had to postpone last week because PJ was ill. He is feeling better. We're going to do 2 episodes upcoming. We're going to do Final Destination Bloodlines, a special bonus, and then we will do Superman Returns, as we initially intended to do. And if you want to join us on patreon.com/PLD Projects, where you can see early episodes of review and of Crown Jewels, the Queen podcast. You can also see 2 Middle-Aged Geeks on Film doing the exclusive MCU rewatch. We just dropped the Avengers Gonna work on Iron Man 3 next. They will come onto the main channel eventually, but probably not till somewhere around December is when we're going to start dropping those on the main channel. And let's see, anything else? Yeah, Class Action. We should talk about that. We opened up with Mission Impossible talk. We're going to end with Mission Impossible talk. Mission Impossible, the Battle Royal. I think it's going to be June 30th. I think that's what we talked about. We haven't really solidified our dates yet. We are putting all 8 films into the Steel Cage Battle Royale kind of thing. Actually, can't have Steel Cage Battle Royal. So, some kind of Hell of a Cell Battle Royal, maybe. I don't know. Either way, it's going to be a Donnybrook, getting all these films up against each other in many different categories.
It's a Royal Rumble.
It is a Royal Rumble of sorts around which film will come up triumphant. Matty will stump for Mission Impossible 2. I know that. I will always stump for Mission Impossible 3.
Mission Impossible 3 is going to be the Santino Marella.
If that happens, I will kick you both off the
screen. He's going out in 6 seconds.
I am commissioner of the league. I will just restart it and put him back in.
You're Teddy Long.
I am. You got a tag team with the Undertaker. And Jarvie will always come for Mission Impossible Fallout, I believe. So that's what we're gonna go with for that.
We may have to join forces to stop him.
Yeah, I think we might have to, especially in one particular category.
Yeah, we definitely have to form an alliance.
As my wife just texted me because she's hearing me record this, it's going to be a slobber knocker, as the great Jim Ross says. Good word, good term, Kim. All right, guys, you can find us next time. You can join the Patreon if you can. If you can't, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Help us fight the evil algorithm, and we will see you next time on Holy Snokes. Until next time, as always,
may the Force be with you always.